Now, he is accused of involvement with the Ogaden National Liberation Front, the ONLF. Ottawa has not put this group on any kind of a terror watch list. Has that changed? What is Ottawa's view of the ONLF?
Well, no, we haven't yet put that thing, and we are not at this stage. We don't want to tie this case to Mr. Makhtal. What we are interested in is to have the due process carry on out there.
And you say that you are willing to take it higher if need be. What are you willing to do?
Well, no, I've made a call. I've gone down to Ethiopia. I've made a call, and I will, if we are seeking quick access, and we will, if I need be, I will go back to Ethiopia to push for these rights. However, I do want to say this, that my talks with the political leaders in Ethiopia have been quite productive.
How so?
Well, they do understand that we do need consular access, and they're working to try to get us consular access.
And why the delay then? I mean, can't they just order them to be let them in?
One would expect, things work the way they work in other countries. We have to understand that this is Ethiopia, and Ethiopians have their own system.
Now, Canada sends $100 million in aid and development funding to Ethiopia every year. Is the government considering using any of that as leverage in this case?
Well, because we give a lot of aid and Ethiopia is our partner, we do have access to the government, and the government recognizes and appreciates our help. But I would like also to point out that the development aid is going to humanitarian assistance. Ethiopia currently is facing quite a serious famine out there, and the children mortality as well as high prices of food. This is where Canada's aid is going, and I think it is important to recognize what aid is doing. And so we would rather prefer that due to our friendly relationships, we put pressure to get access to Mr. Makhtal.
And have you asked for a meeting with the ambassador here in Ottawa then, in Canada, the Ethiopian ambassador, to at least get some of these issues cleared up? Because they're telling us there are charges, they're not telling you that.
We meet with the Ethiopian High Commissioner, the Ethiopian ambassador here on frequent basis on this issue, asking, giving our diplomatic note and trying to get more information. But you have to understand this. At the same time, our own ambassador, who is in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, is very active on this file, and he has been working very hard on this file. And as I said, on June, our council has recently gone twice to gain access to the detention center. So it's not that nothing is happening. It's happening on all fronts.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like they're stonewalling you, though. They're telling us one thing, they're telling you something else, and he's gone twice to get access and couldn't get it.
Well, I can't comment about the story about him being charged and what he just said. All I can tell you is what we have been informed officially after we were advised that he had been charged, and so we tried to get more information about it. So currently at this stage, all I can tell you is that the government of Canada has not been informed that Mr. Makhtal has been charged yet.
Well, will the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister be intervening at some point?
Well, we have always been. The Foreign Minister wrote a letter to the Foreign Minister of Ethiopia.
That was Mr. Bernier, right? Will Mr. Emerson be doing anything?
Well, it's the same thing. I'm a parliamentary secretary. I'm going on the authority of the Prime Minister and Mr. Emerson.
Okay, Deepak Obrai, thank you for speaking with me today.
Thank you.
That was Deepak Obrai. He is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of International Cooperation. He spoke to us from Ottawa. You are listening to The Current on CBC Radio 1 and Sirius Satellite Radio 137. I'm Anna Maria Tremonti. Well, Lorne Waldman is Bashir Makhtal's lawyer in Canada, and he has been listening in our Toronto studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your reaction to what Mr. Obrai's been saying?
Well, I think we're, speaking on behalf of the family, we're very disappointed at what we're hearing. I mean, consider this. When Mr. Makhtal was detained, the Ethiopian government refused to officially recognize this. We knew for a long time. Unofficially, they were told, but it took months for the official word to come from the Ethiopian government to Canada. We're seeing the same thing now. Unofficially, a reporter from your program is being told that Mr. Makhtal was charged. We've tried to confirm this. We haven't been able to through the family, and the government hasn't been able to. This is some kind of game that the Ethiopians are playing. We see that the intervention is at a very low level. I mean, we learned from the Mayor of our case that interventions have to occur at the highest level. I mean, at this point, the foreign minister has to get involved immediately and speak to his counterpart in Ethiopia and demand that the Ethiopian government come through. They have to clarify what the situation is. They have to immediately give consular access. But more importantly, Mr. Makhtal's family has tried to retain a lawyer in Ethiopia, and the lawyers have systematically been threatened and denied access to Mr. Makhtal. This is completely unacceptable conduct, and we do have leverage. I'm not suggesting we cut off foreign aid, but given the amount of money that we're giving to Ethiopia, one would expect that the Ethiopian government would respond if proper pressure were put. Now, we all know... Go ahead, sorry.
So let me clarify. He's had lawyers who have tried to see him, kind of like Mr. O'Brien's been saying, the consular official tried to see him twice. It sounds like they're not even saying where he is, in which prison or something. Then, but where's the disconnect here?
Well, we have learned through sources we believe where he is. The family retained lawyers to go to those prisons. They went to the prisons and were basically told he wasn't there, and it was made clear to them that they weren't welcome, to the point where they were uncomfortable to continue acting for the family. And it's difficult, in fact, to find a lawyer in Ethiopia, given its atrocious human rights record, that is willing to come forward and represent Mr. Makhtal at this time. So this is the difficulty the family is having.
Now, we are told he's charged with terrorist activities for his alleged ties to the rebel movement in the country called the ONLF, the Ogaden National Liberation Front. What can you tell us about Ethiopia's official treatment of suspected ONLF members?
Well, the human rights record in Ethiopia is atrocious. The court system is dysfunctional. There's no due process. People are held in detention for years before they're ever brought to justice, and the justice system in Ethiopia is notoriously unfair and controlled by the government. They also have military courts, and if he's sent to the military courts, he won't get any. It's even worse. The treatment in the prison has also been condemned by many human rights organizations. So there's a serious risk that he's being abused, although the Canadian government assures us that that's not the case. They haven't been able to see him to confirm that, having said that. And there's a serious risk that psychologically he's being abused in any event, and the chances of him ever getting a fair trial in Ethiopia are practically non-existent.
Now, he was brought in on an illegal rendition flight out of Kenya. We haven't even talked about the Kenyan government's complicity in this.
Absolutely. You know, he had retained a lawyer in Kenya, a very well-known lawyer. The lawyer had filed a habeas corpus. The habeas corpus was set to be heard, and days before his court appearance, he was secreted out of the country on a secret plane along with a lot of other detainees. I mean, the whole role that Kenya has played in this whole process has not received sufficient attention. Now, we've been told that the Canadian government filed some kind of protest, but obviously the Canadian government should be pushing back forcefully on the Canadian government, on the Kenyans, demanding that they also intervene, because they're directly responsible for the illegal detention of Mr. Makhtal in Ethiopia.
And so do you think he can receive a fair trial in Ethiopia, if indeed he is going to trial?
I doubt it. I don't believe that there's any evidence that any person accused in a terrorism-related case will ever get a fair trial in a country where the judicial system is as corrupt as it is in Ethiopia.
And what concerns you the most, then, about this case?
Well, I think we're seeing a repeat of the pattern in other cases. We need the highest level of intervention. This is a Canadian citizen. He's the only foreign national still detained in Ethiopia that was brought there through the rendition process, and yet the interventions of our government are at a very low level. We need the highest level interventions from the foreign minister, and indeed, as we learned in the Mayor Rar case, it was when the Prime Minister directly intervened that results occurred, and that's what we need to happen in this case if this government is really concerned about the fate of Canadian citizens.
What do you make of the fact that the British, the French, the Swedes, the Americans all got their passport holders, their citizens who were on that flight out?
Well, I think that it's quite clear that those governments are prepared to go to bat in a much more aggressive way for their foreign nationals. I'm sure that the interventions in those cases were much more forceful than we've seen in this case. Mr. O'Brien only got involved after Mr. Makhtal had been in detention for about 15 months. And why was there this delay? Why wasn't the foreign minister more directly involved? The foreign minister should be directly intervening now, and indeed this is the time where we need the prime minister to forcefully intervene. We didn't have any leverage in Syria, given the fact that we have this massive amount of money that we're sending to Ethiopia. We have a lot of leverage.
Lorne Waldman, we have to leave it there. Thank you for speaking to me this morning.
Thank you.